Hi, welcome back to the channel. In this episode we're going to be talking a little bit more about how I've prepared the engines ready for the vessel to go back in the water. Here I'm actually just pouring a little bit of neat diesel down into the cylinder bores. The engines haven't been run for such a period of time that it's worthwhile just giving them a little bit of extra lubrication, and it helps to get rid of any rust rings that may have formed around where the piston rings have been sat inside the cylinder bores. Next job is to turn my attention to the exhaust flaps. Now these are simple rubberized stainless steel flaps that prevent water being pushed back up the exhausts in the event of either a following tide, following backwash, or just in stormy conditions. Quite simple to fit, a little bit fiddly, just have to be careful not to drop anything down inside the exhaust pipe itself. Been asked by a couple of people why the exhaust flaps are made of rubber and not something a little bit more robust. Quite simply, this is a water-cooled exhaust, so seawater or cooling water is injected into the exhaust manifold just as it leaves the engine, and therefore keeps the exhaust gases relatively cool as they exit. This was the location on the port side engine of the oil filter. Once it was removed, you can see it's in quite poor condition. The oil filter itself, the internals of the oil filter were actually okay, so the oil itself is of good condition, even though it's going to be replaced. You can also see that Quicksilver, people who make the filters, have changed the part numbers, so this is now the new part number, and this is the original part number. The same filter, there's a slight difference in height, but it fits in there nonetheless. Now turning my attention to the fuel system. So this is the main fuel pump and fuel filter system on side of the engine. This again is the port side, and as you can see, the filter itself is in very poor condition. This has been completely submerged and therefore is not considered serviceable any further. The starboard side filter was even worse condition, and as you can see here, actually had to be put into a vise in order to get enough leverage on it in order to separate it. However, in doing so, it's actually damaged the filter housing, and as you can see, the corrosion inside the filter housing as well as the filter itself is so bad that I've just decided to replace the entire unit. With the front of the engine cleaned and painted, it was time to reinstall the filter housing, the filter, and a brand new fuel pump. Now it was time to turn my attention to fitting the new starters, including their new hardware. Starters going in was an awful lot easier than when they came out. In fact, the whole process took less than an hour start to finish for both sides. Once the starters were in and the wiring was connected, I was able to then turn my attention to the alternators on both engines. And again, similarly, this only took about 15 to 20 minutes on both sides with the cleaned up wiring. Having left the diesel in the cylinder bores for over 24 hours to soak through, putting the borescope camera inside the cylinder revealed that actually it's pretty clean in there. Whilst it's not in colour, you can see that there is no distinctive marks around the pistons or cylinders themselves. Whilst the engines aren't actually running, they are still turning over on the starters very cleanly and very simply. Thanks for watching.